Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to NFT NYC for bringing us together today. My name is Joe Aiello. I'm from Ticketmaster, where I've been working on the NFT and Web3 products there. Couldn't be more ecstatic to be joined by these two next to me. You want to give a quick introduction of yourself and what you do?
Sure.
I love talking about myself. Brittany O'Hagan, VP of Partnerships at Dapper Labs. Like Joe said, we have this incredible partnership with NFL, with Ticketmaster and Live Nation. We're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the industry. Again, some of the dope shit that we're experimenting with. Again, we haven't nailed it yet, but we'll get to talk to you guys a little bit about what we're doing. Past life for me, I was head of athlete partnerships at Twitter, which is really where I found my love of the intersection of sports and technology. And so I was able to take that over to Dapper and learn all about the wonderful world of Web3 and what a learning experience it's been. So a huge shout out for having us here. Shout out to these guys for being like the coolest partners to work with. And also how dope that we were featured in Times Square. Like Jody,
really
Cameron, that was really, really cool. So thank you so much. And again, shout out to the rest of the speakers too. Dan, tell us about yourself.
Well said, Britt. Well said. Joe, thank you so much for having us. So everybody, I'm Dan DeVece. I lead emerging product strategy at the NFL. So, go football. My journey.
Yay, sports.
Yay, sports. My journey is back in 2020. I was working at the NFL, focused on consumer products and retail strategy. And NFTs started taking off, so they were like, can you spend 5% of your time figuring out what an NFT is? And then that turned into 150% of my time. So now I lead emerging product strategy, focused on all new technologies and how we can engage fans and bring them closer to the game.
Awesome. Well, yeah, super stoked to be on this panel with y'all, and thank you again for the intros there. I think most people in the room are, I would imagine, familiar with the NFL, and certainly Dapper products like Top Shot, All Day, and others. I think it would be helpful to kind of talk a little bit about how it all started for us, right, for our respective orgs and sort of our entry point into it. I know for Ticketmaster, we sort of started with this hypothesis of this opportunity of elevating communities into audiences into communities, and that there was a very valuable way to sort of extend the live event engagement cycle for fans, both between ticket purchase and the concert or live event, or after you attend that, being able to still have some sort of souvenir memento to that. I'm curious, from your respective sides, maybe we'll start with Dan on this one, sort of how did that start on the NFL side?
Yeah, so when NFTs were kind of hitting their stride, I would say back in 2020, like I said, we started diving into it, and we really just got to talk to a lot of experts in the industry and some of the leaders, Dapper Labs included, and some of the executive board there, and just tried to understand a little bit more about the technology. And one of the things that we noticed was, hey, this can do a lot of things for us, and what we need to do is bring our entertainment property from the games and the highlights and the players to the masses and really leverage that. So in talking to everybody, we knew memorabilia was really taking off, and we knew a key thing that fans always complained about was, since we switched to mobile ticketing, they didn't get to collect ticket stubs anymore. So that's how we started our conversation with Ticketmaster of, hey, how do we bring back the ticket stub? How do we let fans collect the game that they were at? And then that led us to talking to Dapper about, all right, so you have this NBA Top Shot product. How do we build on that? How do we bring this to football and to football fans and our 187 million people across the country who watch a game every week? And that's how we got started in the industry. And I think from there, it's been a really great partnership between the three organizations of how do we bring those things together right now.
Yeah, and at Dapper, obviously we're one of the industry leaders, kind of the first to attempt to bring NFTs, Web3, with the Flow blockchain, and then also NBA Top Shot. We have an incredible NFL product called NFL All Day. But we're really experimenting with different partnerships, but also how can we bring Web3 to the masses? And we see sports as some of the most engaged fans that you could possibly have. And looking to find a way to work with these incredible folks, build it mainstream, but then also really dive into the utility. So what can we unlock for these fans? Obviously, NFL fans follow their teams, they follow their players. So experimenting with what kind of access can we unlock? What kind of physical can we bring into the digital space, and then vice versa. And again, everything is an experiment right now. There's no failure. My first day at Dapper, the incredible leader that hired me was like, it's okay to fail here. And I was like, that feels really, really weird. But with failure comes innovation. And that's probably the one thing I am most excited about, is that these folks and probably everybody in the room understands what that means. It's okay to fail, because whatever that looks like is only going to help with the future iteration of whatever project you're working on.
It's so true. And from the Ticketmaster side, when we started, again, to the point that both of y'all made of that opportunity of kind of moving that physical collection to the digital world, and sort of that loss of the ticket stub as ticketing has gone increasingly digital, which has brought so many pros to it in terms of security, legitimacy, authenticity of that ticket, being able to trust that when you have it, it'll get you into the event. Fans absolutely do miss having that keepsake. I mean, I personally was someone who, I guess I still am someone who has a shoebox at home of all of my ticket stubs from childhood, and don't look through them that often. It's not that convenient, but with virtual commemorative tickets as NFTs, it becomes a collection that you can have, you can review at any time, you can easily share with your friends, and you can really take pride in sort of that identity of you as a sports fan, of you as a live entertainment fan across sports, music, arts, theater, all of that.
Yeah, the emotional connection, especially sports, with us is unparalleled. And so having collectibles and us kind of taking those and morphing those into digital collectibles, whether it's through virtual commemorative tickets, whether it's our moments, which are video highlights, it's really cool to see how the game of collecting and feeling that empowerment and feeling that emotional connection to the sport or the moment or the event that you went to.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one of the first NFTs I ever got actually was an NBA Top Shot pack, because NFL All Day didn't exist at that point.
Rip those packs.
Yeah, so I got to rip a pack, and I got a Joel Embiid NFT play, and it was just him hitting at the top of the three-pointer, and it gives you good bragging rights. Like, I was able to brag to my brother that I had a Joel Embiid, and there's the Sixers, and we're big Sixers fans. So I think that's one of the things that is great about sports within this world, is that you can really bond over it and build that community we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, definitely, well said. And I think especially for the NFL, right, you have a lot of different types of fans who engage across a very broad ecosystem. And it seems like NFTs have sort of created a new channel for you to engage with those different fans, sort of appealing to the different aspects of NFL fandom for each of them across different partners like Ticketmaster, Dapper, Mythical Games, and others.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we really focused on when we were learning about the industry is, why do people collect these things, right? We get it that people can collect them and there's different motivations, but we were really focused on, there was people who just like collecting things. They will collect ticket stubs and trading cards and Beanie Babies, right? So we knew we could definitely be in that segment, and that was things like the Ticketmaster ticket stubs or even the NFL All Day moments. Then we knew that there was this community aspect, right? And that bragging right that really comes with it. So we figured there was elements that we needed to bring in to give people a chance to share it and be able to, pound their chests a little bit when they got a great play or they got Aaron Rodgers' rookie play. And then there's also the tech enthusiasts, and those people are really gamers, and there was such a good runway for Web3 gaming. And that's when we brought on a partner who's Mythical Games, who they've been really working on a game for us and focusing on how we bring that aspect of Web3 to life.
Yeah. And I think as we've thought about that, right, the initial question was probably, do people care, right? Is this something that you can really get that engagement with fans, and can you explain that value proposition to them in a way that resonates with them? And I think from my personal experience over the last couple of years, the answer has been an emphatic yes, that people do care, and a lot of that comes down to showing them the value, right? It's not just about education, but also really demonstration of where that value lies and how that works for them as a fan, and really rewards them. And I think where that sort of takes the next level is when you get into that collaboration across partners, like we've been working towards, where you can really bring fans from maybe the live entertainment segment into another one and sort of chain together that engagement in a really interesting way.
Yeah, we really see the value of collecting and bringing those folks together and really rallying around a particular sport or player or team. And the community has been incredible. But do they care? Absolutely. Education, still a work in progress. Our goal, and I think we've made insane progress in such a short amount of time, is really bring NFTs, digital collectibles, Web3, blockchain to the mainstream audience. And we're not there yet. But I think the fact that this event has, like 5 times over in a year, I think really goes to show that it's working. It's working. The blood, sweat, and tears that we're all doing to really drive this into mainstream is working. And we're committed in the long haul. I mean, we know what the last year has looked like. We know there's a lot of headwinds, but we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing that we have kept in mind from the beginning of our journey has been, this community is so passionate about NFTs, but how do we make it really simple for the waitress in Wisconsin to get excited about her Green Bay Packers NFT? And that's how we think about our products, how we really push our partners to think about it. Because at the end of the day, unless we're getting her or, my other one is Bill from Buffalo, to really get excited about ripping a pack or collecting their ticket stub, it's kind of like, what are we doing? So I think the next year is really going to be focused on that consumer experience, that consumer journey, and making it very manageable for every person.
And removing that friction, because again, there are different layers. And it took folks a long time to adopt the internet, Web 2. We're seeing the same thing. There is that knowledge and that gap of just how to adopt this. What is this? What value does it bring to me? How the heck do I even do this? Where do I find it? And so we're trying to use these kinds of partnerships with a massive audience, with massive fans, with something that they're already a fan of, that they're already attending, that they're already engaged with, to kind of open that door and show folks the value in the form of utility, access to players, doing just cool in real life activations and bringing folks together to really be that word of mouth promotion that has gotten us where we are so far.
Definitely. So well said. And again, as we've sort of tried to bring the every fan, the every collector, or just every human into the space to see that value, I think we've all really, I think, Dan, you hit on it, and certainly Dapper's done this really well in terms of just making it really easy to get in the door, start collecting, start building that sort of identity, and then beyond that, you can work on the education and building the value towards a more like true Web3 future too, right? Because on the Ticketmaster side, when you go to an NFL game, when you scan that ticket in, you're gonna get the ability to claim a virtual commemorative ticket that is just through your Ticketmaster account already. And so you don't necessarily, as a fan, even know that it's an NFT. It's not necessarily in your face. We call them virtual commemorative tickets. And so massive adoption across fans this season. I think we did 101 regular season games in addition to every postseason game this year. But that idea of making it really simple to get in the door, but then how do you think about sort of building towards that interoperable future for when it gets here, while today trying to keep things simple for the fan to get in and sort of lower those barriers to entry and that friction?
Yeah, I think, excuse me, we've always really been bullish on the technology for the fact that we believe in an interoperable world. We just don't know when that's going to come, so we can't necessarily say today that's going to happen. So I think what's been really important for us from the NFL is we have a lot of different partners in the space. How do we very thoughtfully bring those partners together using our IP as the thread that kind of connects them? And I think that's where the conversations between our 3 organizations have been really fruitful, have been, okay, we have NFL all-day moments. We have virtual commemorative tickets. How can these play together, and who is the overlap there, and how do we bounce those things back and forth? So I think it's just really forcing the conversation of, hey, how are these connected? What is the optimal fan experience, and building it from there?
We've become quite the happy, dysfunctional little family up here on trying to find that integration where we're bringing what Ticketmaster is doing with VCTs, and what we're doing with Flow and with NFL All Day, and what our incredible partners at the league and teams, and finding that intersection. We are on calls literally every single week trying to figure that out. And we have a lot of really cool ideas, a lot of experiments, there's a lot of testing going on, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the one thing that I love about this group is there's no pride in ownership. Everybody's throwing ideas on the table because we know we haven't nailed it yet. We know that we have to continue working and experimenting and testing to make sure we get to that flawless execution, because none of us have a crystal ball to figure out what exactly that is yet.
Definitely. And we're all up here because we're very bullish on the technology and the opportunity of what it can represent and the value that it can bring to everybody. And so
We also like each other.
that helps too, yeah.
You guys should have heard the conversation that we had backstage. It was completely inappropriate, and we were giggling like we were 5 years old, and we were like, be a grown-up, be a grown-up, be a grown-up. Yet here we are.
None of that happened.
We
Do
deny
you
all
want me
accountability.
to tell them what you said?
No, please, please. Cool. Well, let's switch it up for a minute. We've talked about a lot of different labels, right? We've said collectibles, virtual commemorative tickets, moments. Not a whole lot of talk of specifically NFTs, especially when it comes to the fan-facing side or the user-facing side of what we've done. Do you think the label NFT is going to survive another year?
I think it's for sure going to survive as a technology. We have leaned heavily into the word digital collectible because we do truly see these as collectibles. These are something that you're going to hold on to. You want that emotional connection to. When we're talking about a mainstream audience, NFT, the word NFT or acronym, can be kind of intimidating. Not gonna lie, it can be a little intimidating. There's a stigma that comes from it, but it's not going away at all. And it is one of the ways that you can quickly explain what makes our moments different than just digital trading cards. It's an NFT, but we are cognizant and we are aware, and we actually recognize the fact that some folks are scared of NFTs, and that's okay, because what we're trying to do is bigger than just the word NFT.
Yeah, and I think, we've had this conversation with Ticketmaster, we've had this conversation with the NFL All Day team, but for us, I think it's always been, hey, how do we reach a really large audience? And I think that's the biggest challenge about commercial innovation is how do you make something so revolutionary, not scary, and very digestible very quickly? And I think if we're trying to teach people new words and teach them new technology and really getting down into the weeds, we're going to lose them really quickly. So we have to just make it very familiar to them and then transition that to the digital space. So that's where things like, I remember us being on a brainstorm for a long time to come up with virtual commemorative tickets. And it was actually because I was at NFT NYC. I came back and I was like, I was just at this conference. Why don't we call it virtual? And we all were like, yeah, that has something to it. And I think with moments, we've done a great job of building a campaign to make people understand that they can own the moment. So making those things very familiar and very digestible is really important to get that mass adoption.
Definitely. And I have to say, as someone who's had to type out virtual commemorative tickets and say it
You're
ad
welcome.
nauseum, yes, I really hold a grudge against you for that one. On a related note, as we talked about sort of that widespread adoption and sort of how NFT is kind of scary, what do your friends and family think about NFTs?
The first time I tried to explain to my parents, I've been with Dapper for a little over a year, and I was explaining, what moments NFTs were, and I was telling my mom about, the Dapper wallet, and this is where they live. And my mom she pulled out her purse and she was like, so is it like one of these wallets that you like carry your credit cards in? And it was like, ooh, kind of, except it lives digitally. So it's been interesting to kind of see the real world, and especially like the age demographics as well of the understanding and acceptance. But tell us how the DeVeces feel about this.
Well, I would say I was at my niece's birthday party this past weekend, and my brother was really explaining to me how I need to think more thoughtfully about Ethereum and how I need to get in the game. And I was like, do you know what I do? So I would say that my family's a little unique in my parents don't have Facebook yet. So
Yet?
Yep. Yeah, yet. So they're the laggards of the innovation cycle. And then my brother's definitely on the early end, so he geeks out on it quite a bit.
That's cool. Yeah, I think in my family, my sister probably still thinks it stands for non-fat something, whereas my mom probably doesn't. She thinks it's cute that I do what I do, and my dad's probably the one who's really into the tech and will send me articles and be like, "What do you think about this? Have you read this?" It's nice to have the engagement.
It'll be really fun. I know Uncle Dan, Aunt Britt, we both have young nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to see where this lives when they're old enough to.
Yeah, because they're growing up with it. I mean, there's not a weekend that goes by where I don't play Roblox with my niece and nephew because they're hours away, right? So they're going to grow up in this world where digital assets are their life. Like, it's just part of their life, just like Instagram's part of ours.
I didn't know you were such a degen.
Would we call Roblox degen?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know.
That's a good question.
Would we?
Follow up.
Yeah?
Uh,
No? Mixed signal. Okay.
Speaking of being a degen, digital or otherwise, what are you a degen for? What are things that you collect?
I mean, I'm a huge music person. So outside of sports, obviously, I'm a big sports person, but I'm a huge music person. So I have a very nice collection of vinyls, everything from Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run to, Sam Hunt's Montevello. So that's my geek out.
That's your degen zone.
I'm a
My
sneakerhead.
degenning. Yeah.
You're a sneakerhead.
I'm a sneakerhead, and I collect.
We couldn't tell.
I got some new kicks.
Yeah.
I also collect tattoos. They're kind of they're my story. You can't really see them on me, but everyone has a story, and that's what I collect. My very first NFT that I purchased was a Boss Beauty. So leaning into the women in Web3 game too is something that I'm really interested in getting more into. So if you're a woman in Web3 and you've got like a dope collection, let me know. I would love to check it out.
Yeah. And
How about you, Joe?
I am definitely a bit of a degen in terms of the digital world. Like I said, had collected ticket stubs and stuff like that growing up. Grew up in Texas, going to a lot of Astros games and the old Astros, and collecting a lot of stuff from them that I really enjoyed.
Or post-cheat?
No comment. I bet pre, I think. And then outside of that, big sort of collector of like historical artifacts of my neighborhood and stuff like that. But it's probably maybe 2.5 years ago that I started having friends kind of pushing me towards being a degen in the Web3 space, and I have no self-control, so I went pretty hard for a while. I've since pumped the brakes.
Nice.
Yeah.
We have exactly 1 minute left. Is there one quick question that we want to take from the audience? Yes. I'm not going to throw our product and engineering team under the bus. They're incredibly talented folks. There's always tech that doesn't see the light of day. And it sounds incredible when you're putting together prototypes and demos. And I wouldn't call them failures because at the end of the day, even if something doesn't launch, there's still learnings from it. We're actually working on a redemption flow that involves all 3 partners, and we've hit so many hiccups with how folks can go redeem a pack or redeem a specific moment, and it's not happening as fast as we would like, but we are getting there. So it's that constant experimentation and evolution.
And what it did allow us to do, though, to build on that, is actually map out the different steps for that redemption flow. And now we are laser focused on how do we take out those steps? How do we get that friction out of the system so that we're getting somebody to cascade down to the redemption as quick as possible? And I think that's what's really been the focus here.
Thank you. We're out of time. Unfortunately,
We nailed
appreciate
it.
You guys did
Nailed
great.
it.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you guys
Perfect.
so
Thanks, all.
much.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.